Alright, so today's going to be a bit of a different riding in Kathmandu vlog, and I just wanted to talk about what it's like in a two-wheeler perspective, not a four-wheeler for a change. I'm getting a lot of comments about how I've only been posting videos about cars and in a car's perspective, not a bike. So I thought, why not today? Let's try it out. And just me as a two-wheeler motorist today, what are the things I look out for when I drive? And yeah, just some housekeeping points, I guess. I do want to note that this is not my bike. I am actually on an Ather 450X, which I have posted a review about, and while I am testing it out, I thought I would also vlog about just housekeeping points on what it's like to be riding in Kathmandu. I do not have any hopes of making this too long, but let's see how it goes. And the first thing first is on the road. As a two-wheeler, you are basically bottom of the food chain, and in some ways even less taken care of than a pedestrian on the road. And by that, what I mean is virtually no one will leave you any room. You have to play very defensively and almost have to like carve out your room on the road. On turnings, you will always have to give side to a bigger vehicle as they will demand that space. In tight corners and areas, again, bigger vehicles, cars, jeeps, whatever, they're gonna intrude your space. Pedestrians won't really stop for you, they won't even look at you, because they'll always assume and think you will stop for them since you are in a two-wheeler. And then buses, the same. Buses, they notice you, they know you're on the road, but we all know the experience with bigger vehicles. They will actively try and push you to the side to make way for themselves. And then the worst though is other two-wheelers. When you are on a two-wheeler and there are other two-wheeler riders around you, they're the one that most aggressively pushes you around if you aren't careful. You're basically bottom of the food chain on the road in a two-wheeler in Nepal, unless you have like a big sort of bike, a loud bike, something that has like a lot of road presence. Otherwise, you're out to fend for yourself. And I'm not joking about that. So, how do you keep safe on a two-wheeler? How do you let others know of your actions? What do you do to keep safe? And I guess you could start off with yourself. And what I mean by that is because unlike a car, you are sitting directly exposed to the environment, which is a thrill of its own. I would definitely recommend brighter sort of clothing, something a bit eye-catchy. Could be your helmet that's in a more eye-catchy color, a jacket like this on a brighter color. I may not always find the most catchy. I may not always be in the most color coordinated outfit, but hey, at this point when I'm On a two-wheeler, I would rather be seen than be in a catchy color coordinated clothing scheme. You know what I mean? I'd rather have the next motorist see me than being all black in the dark, is what I'm trying to get at. And proper shoes, or at least tight and nothing too loose, because whenever you have to come to a stop, your feet do have to go down on a bike like this. And as a result, you don't want anything too loose where your feet touches the ground. You don't want to slip and you don't want to fall off your bike and or have the bike fall on top of you. Then on top of that, the next thing is just proper gear. A helmet, a sturdy enough helmet. Never forget your helmet. I also wear gloves just to protect myself from dust and sun, but also in the condition that I have an accident and fall off, my hands aren't the one grinding against the floor. It's the palm of my gloves. I actually have a dent already, falling off a cycle not too long ago. When I was mountain biking, I just slipped and, well, my palm scraped the floor, and luckily I had this to take the brunt of that. And then just full clothes in general in case you do fall off your bike. You don't want your skin exposed. Uh-oh. And I guess that covers it. And then after that comes just being careful out on the road. And by that I mean your braking distance. You never want to be too near on a two-wheeler. Just like in a four-wheeler when you're at speed. You always want to have some distance. Have some braking distance. I've told this so many times, but the moment you see some hazard in front of you, you take about a split second, interpret and accept that hazard before you finally press on the brakes on a bike. And within a second or two, you would have properly traveled at least 5 to 10 meters, which in the event of an accident, you probably don't have that much of space in the first place. And so what I'm trying to get at is did you see that? This guy was trying to go left but gave his side light right at the last moment. And that is exactly what I would recommend you to avoid, not just in cars but also in bikes, because it's so captain obvious that when you give your side lights too late, people around you just don't have the time to react and dodge you. Dodge you in the sense, if you're making a left, naturally I'm not gonna ride right behind you that I get stopped when you also make a left. Does that make sense? And so anyway, I was saying your judgment distance and your braking distance is something that you just have to take care of. Staying close by is fine, but the thing is, the faster you're going, especially when you're above 30, 35, especially above 40, you definitely need some braking distance, and that is exactly what I'm talking about. You do not want to be so close, bumper to bumper in cars, or front wheel to whatever in the next vehicle, that if they stop, you at least have some room to jam the brakes. And I'm gonna go back to my indicators rant. Oh my god, where do I begin on that? Indicator wise, you should always give it some time ahead of the actual turning, not at the turning, not 2 meters before the turning, at least 5 to 10 meters before, depending on speed. Like if you're going 40 kilometers an hour, I expect you to have your indicators on like a good 10 to 15 meters before. If you're traveling at maybe what 5 kilometers an hour, you might get away with having your indicators on just 3 to 5 meters ahead of the actual turning. Yeah, it all depends. It's all relative. You have to like caution and use your best judgment on such things. And then I guess that brings me to the next thing, which is at night. You are a good rider during the day. Are very you're not very aggressive. You don't slam on the brakes too much. Let's say you are a safe, very aware sort of rider. But what about at the night? Well, the night is a different story. You need a bit more of reflective gear at night. Your vehicle will no doubt have some form or the other of reflections for like incoming headlights and whatnot, but you never know. The thing with at least riding in Kathmandu is everyone has their high beam on at night. Like everyone has their high beam on at night, and it is just so annoying to have to ride or to drive when you have incoming headlight glare. Like, oh my god, so damn annoying. But hey man, it is what it is. And then I guess you just have to be mindful of distance, judgment, and speed when it comes to riding at night. I think something very important that in context to now sharing the road is that unlike a two-wheeler that will just turn when turned right there and then, like you can practically just do a U-turn in half a lane, you can't do that in a car. And so a car will need like a certain amount of distance open towards one side or the other, especially when making a turn. And you do not like the space in front of me. There's a bit of a gap on the left. You don't want to squeeze your bike into that space on the side of the turn, thinking, oh, that gap will always be there for me to like slot myself in. The thing is, when four-wheelers are turning, that gap often diminishes to the point that it just vanishes depending on how big or small the vehicle is. Like a bus will probably leave a proper 2 foot, maybe more gap. And if you overtake from the left, when the bus is also turning left, that gap will quickly diminish. It'll quickly just vanish, and what happens is the two-wheeler often gets squeezed between the wall on the side or whatever's on the side and the vehicle. And unfortunately, I've always seen the biker get mad the most. I don't know how, but I feel like it's common sense not to go into that gap. But I don't know. If there's a gap, I go for it, is probably what most people think. That's one. Rule number one, just be aware of a car and its surroundings and don't just go and hug it. Rule number two is when you're on a bike and you are swerving in between lanes, when you are switching tracks on a multiple lane road, always check your rear mirrors before you make the change. Bikes also have blind spots. Maybe not as big, but they still do at least have some blind spots, and you don't want to hit anything while you're in speed on a bike because then you lose balance and you fall off. Yeah, no, let's not do that. Sometimes when making U-turns, you might be thinking, I don't see anything, but it's always good to like check behind. Just check it out. And after that, even just when you're in traffic, whenever you are about to make swerves and like cut the line and go ahead, basically lane splitting, you definitely want to check like what's on either side. And sometimes your mirrors aren't big enough for everything, but you then, if you're in any situation where you're a bit doubtful of what's going on, you kind of want to be careful when you are making these abrupt lane changes, primarily because there might be another bike in your blind spot or a cycle. A car usually is visible, but hey, maybe a car too, and yikes, that could be a bad accident. The other thing is with bigger vehicles, bikes are as tiny as pedestrians to like big trucks. And so what I mean by that is, yeah, I just had to switch out of eco mode into a ride mode because it was slowing down. Yeah, for trucks, you have to be careful around their blind spots. Like, they actually can't see you. The bigger your road presence is, size-wise on the road, the better they'll be able to see you. Honking is another way, just like what I did right now, to alert someone else that I'm coming by. You just have to make your presence known on the road, not in a in your face sort of way, but in a, hey, I'm here, I don't want any sort of like, I don't get this guy in front of me, his mirrors are down, what are those mirrors used for, the side lights are on. You know what I mean? Like, if you have something, use it appropriately. Don't take them for granted. Anyway, I think this is enough of a long motorcycle vlog. Some just quick housekeeping tips. And let me know what I've missed out. I feel like I've missed out so many things. But give me a comment, and I guess I will see you on the next one.